Welcome to the Fantasy Baseball Beat, part of the Pitcherless family of podcasts. I'm Mike Carter, and you can find me on Twitter with the worst Twitter handle of all time, at MDRC0508. Don't ask what it means, I'll tell you later. I'm flying solo for our beat writer interview this week, and to me, it's a special guest for me because, as you know, who listen, I am a diehard White Sox fan, and lately, the last couple years have not been super kind to my fandom. We have tonight with us Scott MERKIN, who's been covering the White Sox for, is it 23 years now, Scott? Or is it more than that?
Yeah.
23 years.
I go by manager. We'll see if I can do it really quick. Ozzie 8, Robin 5, Ricky 4, so that's 17. Tony and Cairo, Miguel Cairo, who's now managing again, 2, that's 19. Pedro and Grady 2, 21. 1 for Will, 1 for Jerry Manuel my first year, so 23.
Man, that's wild. That's a lot of turnover in 23 years.
Yet I can't remember where my car is parked, so that'll be that's the sad thing.
Well, luckily it tells you on your phone now where your car is parked,
that's right?
So
that's right.
Scott's joining us to talk about the White Sox, my beloved White Sox, and he's seen a few things in those 23 years, as he just mentioned, not only managerial changes, but also a lot of really good teams and some not really good teams here the last couple of years. Scott is a big-time Michigan fan, a Michigan alum, also a big Yacht Rock fan. If you follow his newsletter, you should be doing that if you're not doing it.
Can't wait for Thursday. And the Christopher Cross Toto Men at Work concert in August, of course.
Oh, that's going to be amazing. Amazing.
Like you should retire Yacht Rock after that concert because it's not going to get any more Yacht Rock than that.
No. Maybe a little, Donald Fagen or Steely Dan maybe in there
Michael
too.
McDonald, right? Michael McDonald. If you put the Doobie Brothers in there too, you might have it covered.
You'd have it
Donald
be done.
Fagen and Steely Dan are good too. That's a good choice.
Yeah, for sure. So Scott, you've been on a couple of times with us before, years past, and last year when you were on, it was a pretty quick show because we didn't have much to talk about. But the White Sox right now are 31-62, but yet it feels very different this year to me as a fan and as somebody who watches the team. I know that you're with them every day and watching what's going on. Talk a little bit about your overall impressions of the team this year.
Well, I think it's just a different stage of the rebuild, right? I mean, you have a lot of the young. This is what the rebuild really is at the core of the rebuild. Nothing against the veteran guys who came in there. I mean, you look at a guy like Chris Flexen, who went 22 straight starts without a win last year. Mm-hmm. And now he's a huge part of the Cubs division leading team in the NL Central. All that lead is shrinking a little bit over there. Chicago baseball. You got to be careful along the way. But so, I mean, nothing against veterans, but this is what it's all about, right? You have all these young guys. I think it's 10 rookies on the team and 11 who made their major league debut this year. And, or maybe it was the White Sox debut. I know it's 10 rookies, but you're seeing at bats for Chase Meidroth. You're seeing at bats now for Colson Montgomery, which is great to see him up. Sean Burke, even Davis Martin, who's not that young, but I mean, in terms of service time, but is younger. Mm-hmm. Shane Smith has been a great story now, an all-star. Kyle Teel, Edgar Caro. So that's what it's about. You let these guys learn this year, and then maybe by, at the latest second half, let's say even just not even the latest, second half next year, you have a team that's competitive.
Mm-hmm. The philosophy with the young guys coming up seems to be that they're willing to let them sort of learn on the job and take their lumps, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, let's be honest. They're 31 games under 500, right? I was with a friend at dinner tonight, and she was saying that, if they win 69 in a row, they're going to win 100 this year, which would be a franchise record, by the way. 99 is their single season high. But all joking aside, I don't think they had any thoughts that they were going to be a playoff contender this year. So with that, you can allow young guys who are very talented to have their growing pains, have their rough starts here and there, and, have their 1 for 20 stretches while learning about big league life. And you talk to a guy like Jordan Leisure, who got the save and the win against Toronto in the series finale, ending the Blue Jays' 10-game winning streak. And he talks about how much he gained from last year. And it wasn't even a great overall season for him. He had a good start and then a really bad finish. Mm-hmm. And he feels like he's learned a ton just from being part of that group last year. So, I think it makes a lot of sense. It's the way you do it now. You're going to have to spend at some point. I'm not saying it's going to be this offseason because, it just may not be the time. And Chris has kind of hinted at that. And I'm not saying you have to go out and have a Dodgers payroll. I'm not saying you have to have anything close to that. You look at what the Royals did last year, right? The Royals had calculated spending. They added Michael Wacha. They added Seth Lugo. They already had Perez in place. Now you can do a lot of calculated spending when you have Bobby Witt on your team, obviously, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's right. A great equalizer. Vinny Pasquantino has emerged as a great player. Now they have Caglione, who homered again tonight up there. But, I think it's something along those lines, maybe identify a big guy and then kind of fill in around him. But that doesn't have to be next year. It could be the offseason after that, or even the one after that. But you do have to add. You do have to add on to finish this off, because as I forgot who pointed this out to me, I think it might have been Ben Attendee who said this, that very few, if any, teams win just on prospects alone. So you're going to have to add key veteran pieces there to get there. But that's not what we're looking at right now. Right now, we're looking at the development stage. And of course, as we're talking now, 22 days until the trade deadline, right? So that's the next the draft is the next big step. And then after that, it's the trade deadline.
Yeah. You had a great tweet about Colson Montgomery the other day that I thought was worth sharing again, that you suggested that Montgomery would really take off on this stage because he really seems to like the big stages. And so far, he really looks like he fits the part. What do you expect to see from him in the second half, Scott?
I mean, I haven't seen a ton of his games overall his career. I've seen some AFL games. I haven't seen him play in the minors. But he looks as comfortable as I've seen, counting Cactus League stuff, too. He looks really – and I know the players hate that comfortable word because it seems almost kind of like too easy. He looks as confident and fit in as he fits in as much as I've seen him. Here's what I think. Like, I admit that I am not the biggest analytic person of all time. I kind of look at the story and the scene. Colson Montgomery was a top-notch Indiana high school basketball player, along with football and baseball. But as he told me, Indiana basketball is not like a choice. It's a religion. And if you can handle that stage, I think literally you can handle any stage. I think he'll be fine on that. And I think it's, I think it's good. I remember talking to Gordon Beckham, who was, back before there was a rebuild, he was like their big hot prospect. And he said that he wishes he would have had a few struggles. These guys that come in, guys like Colson, they never struggle, right? I mean, they're the stars of their high school team at every level. They usually play very well in the minors. So I think when they first struggle, it's a little bit of a slap in the face, little startling, but it's better to do it at Charlotte for a year and a half than it is to do it for a year and a half at the major leagues and then be completely lost against top-notch pitching on top of it, So I just think he's a primetime guy. I think, and I'm not saying he's going to end up hitting 30 and stealing 30 and driving in 150, but boy, that'd be great winning.
True.
But I think he's going to perform well at this level. And again, it's just 6 games now, right? But I think he's going to be. He's looked very good defensively, and it's funny because much like when Tim Anderson was drafted, you heard a lot. I think because Colson's bigger, he's of the Corey Seager prototype, very good athletes. Oh, he can play third, maybe even can play left. We always heard for Tim, second base, maybe center, and both of them were determined. Like, nope, I'm a shortstop. I'm going to make this work. Not make this work. I'm going to excel. And, we watched today and we were waiting for Will to come out to talk to him pregame. Colson going through his work on the field pregame with Justin Jerschley, who's a great coach too, by the way.
Yes.
And also knows Colson from managing him at Charlotte. So he's ready to, to put in the time to be an excellent shortstop and stay in that position. And it would be of great help to the Sox because, Chris Getz is very focused on up the middle strength.
Yes. Yeah, they really need him to play shortstop. I've said that to people who are casual fans of the team who've made the same suggestion about him moving to third, as in maybe down the road.
They need him to play well more than anything else. They need him to hit and play well. And if it ends up being third, that's fine. But it would be a bigger boon if he was a shortstop, obviously, if that worked out like they had planned.
For sure. Scott, another guy that has really kind of come along this year, Miguel Vargas has gone from a meme punchline last year to one of the best players on the team this year. Can you talk a little bit about the changes that you've seen him make to his game to lead to his success this season? Even though he's slumping a little bit right now, he's still hitting the ball really hard.
Yeah, it's interesting because, he did have an awful stretch with the Sox last year. I mean, really bad. And he, to his credit, he kind of has fun with it, but, we'll ask him about it. He's like, yeah, I don't remember anything about last year. And that's good. I don't blame him. Put that aside. And, it's got to be a shock to the system when you're playing for the best team in baseball, the team that wins the World Series, which he got his ring when the team was in LA last week. Great looking ring. To going to, literally the worst team in the history of baseball, at least until the end of this season. And then he made, he started off struggling a little bit, had some good at-bats in April, but wasn't hitting. They made the switch with his hands and his approach. That helped. Now he's got another, now they've adjusted again to him. So now he's got another stretch to go through. I think he was like in a 4 for 48 slump before he got a hit today. So we'll see how he comes out. He's been impressive in that he plays good defense at both third and first. I'm impressed by that. He's got good hands. And he seems to move well on the field. During that stretch where he was crushing the ball, he was hitting for some power too. It's all kind of evaporated in the short term. So we'll see how now he adjusts. And now it's up to him to kind of show which one is closer to him. Is it the one? I don't think last year counts at all, but is it the one who slumped a couple times during the year or the one who had that 50-some game stretch where he was, just hitting everything pretty much?
Well, he made the last out in the game on Monday night, and that ball was one of the hardest hit balls I've ever seen.
I do remember that. He did crush that ball. Now, here's the other thing. I think it's a great example to show that, he's hitting the ball hard, but you hope it evens out, because if at the end of the year you hit the ball hard 100 times and you make outs 90, it's still a 100 average, right? It's like, it's a hang with them 100, but it's still 100. So, but again, a lot of it is, not out of your control. I guess the bottom line of that is, if you hit the ball hard, you hope it finds. Like today, he hit one that I think it was David Schneider was playing. I remember who was playing third for the Blue Jays, and it was it was a play he probably could have made, but they gave him a hit, and it was hit hard enough where, to your line of thinking, which is exactly right, actually, that sometimes they even out, right? Maybe the one in center on Monday should have been caught, or should have been a hit. Maybe today should have been made. The play should have been made, but you kind of evens out in the long run.
For sure. Another guy on this team that's been really interesting and a great find for the Sox is Shane Smith, who's gone from a Rule 5 pick before spring training to the de facto staff ace and now an all-star. How did he do that, Scott?
Well, I think he worked hard. He learned a change up in the offseason kind of on his own with, kind of advice from the Sox after they got him in the Rule 5, number 1 pick in the Rule 5 draft. I think he's just got a really big desire to learn, and I think they all do. But like, I've noticed with Shane, when you interview him, he doesn't just give you the answers kind of like you want to hear. He kind of listens to the questions and really digs deep to find like what he's trying to say. And I think that's how he approaches pitching too. I happened to see on the scoreboard today, they had one of those, Q&A with the players, what's your favorite vacation spot and your go-to restaurant. And it said, how would you describe yourself? And he said intense. And I think he is, but not intense like, guy hits a home run and you take a bat to the water cooler or something like that. I think he's intense like, he really doesn't like to get beat, and he's had 4 straight rough starts in a row. Although I guess he was I wasn't at the game, but I guess he was a little better against Colorado. He was better in general, a better start, and had a rough last inning. But yeah, I mean, for the first 13 starts, there was no question. Not only was he an all-star, but he would be a guy who you could see pitching up early in that game on Tuesday because he was that good. So I know there's some people who talked about Adrian Hauser, who's been unbelievable, just a revelation in his 8 starts, but he's pitched, less innings than Shane. So I can see where that happens. But I think Shane is, deserving. I think he's deserving as the White Sox All-Star. I think it's a great story. And this is a guy who, didn't know where he'd be in December and ended up being the number 1 pick and has just taken off for the Sox. Now, I think like all these starters, they're going to have to really watch them in the second half because they're all, Davis Martin's already over his single season innings high. I think all the rest of them, except for Jonathan Cannon, are kind of approaching that total. You could see a number of, things they did with Garrett Crochet in the end last year, or maybe, they alternate the starts of where the guys go 3 innings and that's it, so it'll be interesting to see who gets traded, who gets kept, who they add to help compensate for the innings. Shane's a great story, but again, you have to be careful, watch him go down the stretch to see what you do with him.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's no doubt that some of these guys have to be getting a little bit tired. I mean, they've been going at it every 5 days now for several months. So,
well, and it's the first time for a lot of, Schoenberg came up and pitched for a few starts last year. It was great, but this is his first full big league season. Davis Martin is coming back from Tommy John rehab. I mean, he had a normal off season and made like 10 starts last year, but he's getting back into the full 30 start routine. Jonathan Cannon had kind of a full season at the big league level. Shane Smith had nothing at the big league level before this year. So you're talking about all these guys, coming back. And that's where like an Aaron Savali comes in, where he hasn't pitched great for the Sox, but he's giving them, he hasn't pitched horrible, but he hasn't pitched exactly what they wanted. But he's giving them innings, giving them pitches that, kind of not only helps the starters, but helps the bullpen too. And then Hauser goes without saying how great he's been.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he's been a revelation, as you said. That kind of brings us to that next question, Scott, with, the trade deadline looming here in about 3 weeks and the Sox having some pieces that might be able to help some of these contending teams. Do you see the Sox moving those veteran pitchers like Savale and Hauser? Do you see a scenario where they end up keeping those guys? And do you think guys like Benintendi and Robert and Tauchman and those guys are going to be on the move?
I think there's no untradables on this team. I'm not sure if they're shopping anyone per se at this point. I think things will really pick up after the draft is done on Monday night. But I think we were talking about this, and I was talking about this with one of the media relations guys today about what's the over under on number of guys traded. And I think you could go 3.5, or you could go as high as like 6.5. I mean, I really still do believe they trade Luis Robert. I just don't. I don't think they're going to pick up his $20 million option for next year. So if you're not going to do that, I don't know why you wouldn't try to get something for him. Now, maybe it's not what you envisioned last year, but because he's played great defense, he can run, he has it in him to hit and hit for power. He just hasn't done it now for 1.5 years. So that's if you're a team, I think a team that would be a good fit for Luis would be a team like the Dodgers, as an example, who have so many frontline guys like Luis, but he would be like the 7th or 8th counted on guy for that team.
Right.
Just go out, relax, do his thing, play your great defense and center, and see what you can do offensively.
Yeah, but he's never seemed comfortable being the spotlight guy, right? I mean, that seems like
I think he is. I think he was like 23 is. I've said this a number of times, but I think it's the most complete season I've seen from a White Sox player in 2023. What he put together. But I mean, he is. For better or worse, never better or worse. But I mean, for right now, he is the guy that they kind of focus on in that lineup, right? I mean, they have some young guys in there, but I mean, the one you want to make sure you don't get beat by is Luis Robert, even though he is in a season-long slump. But, Adrian Hauser is going to garner a lot of attention, I think. Savali might garner some. Tauchman's a great player, but do they, what do they decide is what the drawing point is, right? To keep these guys or to, trade them? I think Tauchman has another year of arbitration eligible, so, they could hang on to him. Someone like Benintendi, I think you'd have to pay some of the contract down in order to make that move. Steven Wilson's had a really good year out of the bullpens. Cam Boozer's a very talented, hard-throwing lefty. So when he comes back healthy, maybe there's enough time where teams could take a look at him. So I think there's all sorts of options for moves. And, guys could be paired together in trades for all we know.
Sure.
The only thing is, I've asked this a couple of times. I don't think any of the young guys are going anywhere. The only reason I ask that is, let's say a team had an interest in Kyle Teal, who's been great since he came up.
Sure.
But if they offer you a huge package of other young players, do you listen then? But it sounds from talking to Chris and assistant general manager Josh Barfield does such a great job on the team there too, that they really want to let these guys grow together. So I don't see any of those guys being traded. So it's more the veterans looking at. But again, I don't know if you're going to have the return of even the 8-player, 3-team traded into the deadline last year, and for sure not the Crochet deal from the winter meetings.
Sure. Yeah, I think you can't say enough about the job that Josh Barfield and Brian Bannister have done in changing the culture of the organization and building these guys into really good players. They've come up and they've shown that they're ready. Teal really looks like a guy that can really be a major contributor to the team for years. I mean,
Josh, Brian, Chris hired Gene Watson, Christian Guzman, who's the mental health coach, done a great job. Number of players talked to me about how much he's influenced them. Ryan Fuller, the hitting coordinator now, hitting director, whatever they call him. I'm not diminishing. I just don't remember what the title is off the top of my head.
Sure. No, I understand.
Yep. There's a lot of really good, and I think the staff they have in place is excellent, with Walker McKinnon and, Marcus Thames back, Ethan Katz. So, the coaching they have in Bourgeois and Jersley, just, Matt Wise. I'm forgetting someone, Drew Butera and Joe McCabe, and all these guys. But I think it's a really solid staff and, put together. Now, again, you can have the plan work to perfection. You still got to get the guys to produce, and you still got to add on to make this work ultimately. For
sure, absolutely. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun again as a White Sox fan. It's interesting again to watch, and I'm really grateful for that. Scott, 2 more questions for you before I get you out of here. Again, for those of you who are just listening now, we're with Scott Merkin, covering the White Sox at MLB.com for the last 23 years. Scott, is there another minor league guy? And we just talked about there being 10 guys that are on this team making a contribution. Do you see any other minor league players that could be coming up that could make a big splash in the second half for the Sox?
I'm not sure a splash, but I think like Brian Ramos, who was kind of a breath of fresh air last year when he got called up. He had 2 homers tonight for Charlotte, including a grand slam. He's on the 40-man. Maybe that's a guy. And then I still believe, and they haven't really said one way or the other, but I don't know if you promote Noah Schultz to Charlotte this year if you don't believe that he's going to at least get like maybe 4 or 5 starts at the big league level to finish the year, because I think they really do envision him as a part of the rotation from the start next year. So I think those, we saw this at Giolito. And when I say starts, I mean, it could again be someone they add in there to pitch 3 or 4 innings at the beginning of a game and then take him out,
Right.
But I really do think that he will get a shot this year too. And there's some relievers, but I think Ramos and probably Schultz would be the main guy to look at, I think, right now.
Yeah. Do you think Grant Taylor is the closer for this team in the second half straight up?
I think he's a closer. I'm not sure what he is past 2025. Yeah. You've heard both schools of thought. Sure. When I had Alex Stumpf, who does a great job for us covering the Pirates, I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. He talked to Skeens for me when the Pirates were here in Chicago. And, him and Taylor are very good friends from the LSU days. Sure. And Skeens kind of hinted, I think he said something along the lines of, he's really learning now in the bullpen. He's going to be a starter next year. And that was news to Taylor and the White Sox, I think, or they're playing it very close to the vest. But he's just a dynamic presence. I mean, that one game he had against San Francisco, he threw 18 four-seamers and 17 were at 99 or above.
I know.
And then, the game against the Dodgers, I think he learned just as much. And he was great the next day talking about it, where he lost the zone for a bit. And I think one of the more impressive things I've seen recently is, he gives up the leadoff single to Conforto trying to protect a 2-run lead at 53,000 people. The night that Kershaw gets his 3,000th strikeout is just crazy from pitch one. Then he loses the zone. He throws 9 straight pitches, bases loaded, nobody out to Ohtani. I mean, I think no offense to Grant, we're all thinking, well, this one's going to land in like El Segundo, El Segundo,
Right.
whatever it is. And he makes a great pitch. And like he said, pretty much anyone else, it's a double play, but Ohtani's, a freak of nature.
Yes,
and they end up losing the game, but he kind of figured out, and he's been good since then. So, and there's going to be those ups and downs. Like he said, he'd be naive to think he'd come in and be perfect this year. But I think he will be used as, today he was used as the setup guy. I think he'll be used as a late inning leverage guy. That's the probably safer way to put it.
That makes a lot of sense. Last question, Scott, for you before I let you get out of here. You talked a little bit about, adding. Where do you think the Sox might? I know it's just speculation on your part, but where do you think that they might add this winter?
Oh, I can't really say as of yet because I mean, you gotta, you see what you're getting a look at some of these guys now. How close is Braden Montgomery, who's a an outstanding prospect? I believe he's at Winston-Salem right now. I want to say.
Yep.
So how close
he's playing in the futures game this week too, right?
Right. He's playing the future with Noah Schultz. So, I think it's too early to say at this point, like where the exact specific area is going to be, because you kind of got to see, where you think you have guys that fit. Is Chase Meidroth your second baseman? Is Colson Montgomery your shortstop? So you look at who do you get in this draft? Who do you get at the trade deadline? So it's probably a little early to guess at what they're going to add in there. Yeah, I would guess a couple veteran arms. That always helps. So that's a pretty safe bet to go on. But aside from that, I think it's a little early.
That's awesome. Well, Scott, thanks so much for joining us. I know it's late night for you. You had a really busy day. I really appreciate you coming on with us. Can you tell our listeners where they can find your work and any special articles you got coming up next?
Sure. WhiteSox.com, MLB.com, at Scott Merkin on Twitter. This weekend is the big 20-year reunion. Mark Burley, very deserved statue dedication. I'm sure there'll be a lot of memories of Bobby Jenks shared. Very sad passing there, a bigger than life character, a Babe Ruthian almost character. So I think a lot of those we think to look at for coverage this weekend.
All right, Scott. Well, thanks so much for joining us. We'll let you get going and have a great weekend. Enjoy the festivities. And thanks for coming on with us again. We'll be right back after this commercial break.
All right. We are back. Good to be back here with you guys. Mike, thank you for holding down the fort as the host last week and doing the interview with Scott. I'm sure you did a great job with that. So, good to be back with you guys. For our fantasy follow-up segment today, we are going to be naming our fantasy all-stars. And the way we're going to kind of look at it is we're not just going to pick like the best fantasy player at each position, but we're going to look at each position and kind of use a combination based on where they're currently at on the player rater, what their ADP was in the offseason, and kind of how much value they've given us based on where they were drafted. And also, if we think this, we'll just have more of an open discussion about whether we think their performance is going to continue. So let's start at the catcher position. Let's start with you, Mike. You started us off with, or you're going to start us off with someone that I loved in the offseason and am continuing to love having him on my teams. And I'll let you take the floor.
Yes, you did. And I will give you a shout out for that. I usually don't give you a shout out for anything.
Never.
But Hunter Goodman was a guy that you had really talked up a lot in the wintertime. And somebody that I really didn't know much about other than the power profile, but taking a deep dive into him over the wintertime he's definitely somebody that people should have been interested in, especially because he's got catcher and outfield eligibility. But all he's done this year so far is hit 280 with 17 home runs, 52 RBIs, and scored 45 runs. He's got a stolen base, but he's not there to steal bases. He's there to hit home runs. His ADP at the time when we were drafting was 318. Right now, he's got a 51.6% hard hit rate and 74 mile per hour bat speed. So He's really looking like he can keep it up. Now, the one thing that there is issue with here, as there is with a lot of power hitters, as we know, is the K percentage is higher than what you would like. It's almost 27%. And he does have some chase to his game. But the fact that he's hitting 280 after hitting 190 last year and his ADP was 318, boy, to get 17 home runs out of a guy at that ADP is really a win. And so Hunter Goodman is my nominee for All-Star at catcher based on those factors.
All right. Yeah. I mean, guy plays in Coors Field. I think another thing that really got me onto him later in the draft season too was the fact that he seemed to be playing more regularly at catcher. I think there was some question about what they were going to do with him this year. He played a little outfield. They had him at DH last year. It was kind of all over the place, but it seemed like in spring training, the Rockies were really committing to him at catcher. And yeah, I mean, he's playing. The playing time has actually fallen off a little bit. In the beginning of the year, he was playing pretty much every day at catcher or DH. He's missing days here and there, but I think there's also, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, there was some kind of lingering hamstring issue that he was dealing with.
Yeah, he was hurt for a bit. I think it was last week or something, and there was concern he might go on the IL, but then he didn't, and he hit 2 home runs in that game. So
right.
It was one of those things where it was a miraculous recovery. But yeah, no, I like him a lot too. The one thing that I noticed about him was that his BABIP is incredibly high this year. It's 341 BABIP compared to 199 last year, and he's still striking out about the same. So I wonder if we'll see something maybe in the middle of, you know, where he is now and where he was last year. I still think he's a solid option right now, though. Absolutely an all-star.
Yep. One of the lone bright spots on this Rockies team.
Ain't that the truth?
Yeah. Let's go to first base and pick an all-star there. Dave, I'm going to pass this over to you.
Yeah, for me, my first base all-star is none other than Jonathan Aranda.
Of course.
Another guy that you loved in the winter. So, Chris, I'll give you, Goodman. And Dave, I'm going to shout you out for Aranda. You were all over him in the wintertime.
I loved him then. I love him now. Thank you, Mike. And he's been so good this year. He started out as a platoon player, but he's really been an important part of this Rays lineup. He used to sit against left-handed pitchers, but really he's 313 against them right now. You can't really sit him. And he's got more power at home. More power on the road, but he's still better at home. So it's a nice mix there of power and batting average. And his StatCast page looks so beautiful right now with a lot of reds. So he's doing what he was supposed to do. And to me, what really makes him an all-star is that he was almost picked 400 around the end of March. So, I mean, you could have gotten him for free. And right now you're loving it. So he's my first base all-star right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you nailed that one. I do have to bring it down a little bit. All right. Just looking at, well, we know Dave is usually the one bringing us down, so I'm going to take a turn with that. Davey Downer over here. He does have a 411 BABIP. All right. Obviously, that's not sustainable. Last year he had a 264 BABIP, so league average is around 300. There's nothing in Aranda's profile that really suggests he's going to run a higher than average BABIP. So I think there will be some regression in that batting average, which sits right now at 327. But I still think the quality of contact is really good. So I think the power will continue to be there, but don't be surprised if you see a fall off in the home run category with Aranda moving forward.
Absolutely.
All right. You're going to take the infield for this segment. So give us your second base all-star.
All right. So for second base, I wanted to give props to you, Mike, because I believe you brought him up in the offseason. It was Jackson Holliday.
No, Chris won't give me credit for that. No, he's gonna take credit for that one.
No, I think it was like a joint thing, right?
It was.
We had Jake Rill on, and we both were fawning over you and I were fawning over Jackson Holiday and him being ripped, and they had all those pictures of him in the off season. So I think that was it, right?
Okay.
Best shape of his life.
Best shape of his life. Hey, sometimes it works out.
Okay, so you guys were into him because of some good
big
pictures
muscles
in his physique. Got it. But
also a playing time opportunity, Dave. Come on now.
I know. No, I love what he's been doing this year, and it's pretty amazing how quickly like people forgot all about him. Like, this isn't fantasy football. Have some patience here. He didn't do it for 1 year. Oh well, buy low, which is what people should have done. And over the winter, he had an ADP over 200, and he's looked locked in this year, almost like a different player, like the player we all thought he'd be. He's crushing fastballs at a 293 clip. He's hitting breaking balls this year, which was really something he couldn't do last year. And he's on a 2020 pace. So there's a lot to love here. And both of you guys were spot on in the offseason.
Here's the biggest thing with Holiday right now that I think is the reason for a dramatic change in his valuation moving forward. He's batting leadoff, and he's playing against lefties. He's playing literally every day. And that was really the big thing. We didn't know, like, were the Orioles going to be patient if he got off to a slow start? Were they going to have him in a strict platoon most of the year? Were they even going to send him back to the minors for more seasoning? I mean, he is only 21 years old. I think we forget that, right? But they have shown confidence in him. He's batting top of the order every day. And I mean, he gives you that power speed combo. And I mean, this guy was the top prospect in baseball. So I don't think it should be a shock that he's figuring things out. And I think he's in for a big second half as well. All right. Take us to shortstop, Dave.
All right. So for shortstop, this one's for you, Chris. This was your recommendation. And he's been an all-star. It's OTTO Lopez. He was free in drafts. Okay. But he actually did well in limited time last year when the Marlins were rebuilding. He's got a low K rate, a decent walk rate, and it's supported by a 294 XBA, which kind of shows he's been unlucky. He's a great defender. He'll play every day, and he's another guy on a 2020 pace. So for someone you got free late in drafts, this is the guy right here.
I'm going to quote myself here.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
On January 25th of 2025, @Torres takes tweeted, "When you reach 5+ rounds ahead of ADP on a player, it shows me that you probably don't have enough humility and or self-control. Unless it's OTTO Lopez, then you're just brilliant."
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Were you saying that after he hit 191 in April, or was that?
No, I dropped him everywhere.
Of course you did. Of course.
Listen,
You know what I love about you, Torres?
the takes are strong.
Yes,
but,
you have a strong take, and then we kind of, like typical New Yorker, we just kind of back away from it a little bit. Like we forget that it happened, and then somebody like me reminds you that he hit 191 in April, but you didn't admit to anybody that you dropped him, except David. Except Dave and I both knew that you dropped him.
Well, here's the thing. In fairness, I would have held on to him, but he got off to a slow start, and then he got injured.
Yes, he did.
And then it was like, well, I can't really hold, and I have no IL spot, so I can't hold a spot for OTTO Lopez, So, but now I'm regretting that. But that's my boy. So thanks for the shout out, Dave.
All
Take us to third base.
All right. So for third base, I almost went with Miguel Garcia. And he probably would have been my vote, but we talked about him a couple of weeks ago. He's been doing great. So I just went with the most obvious choice. I went with Jose Ramirez because sometimes I think we think too hard about it, but the answer is right there in front of us. It's the shallowest position, and you're getting 5 category production. So I looked into it. He's provided 18.4 of the team's home runs this year, 35.2% of the team's stolen bases, and 15% of the team's hits. And even with his over 300 batting average, the team is still hitting 224.
Wow.
So for me, I loved him in drafts. He was in my top 3. I had him at 3rd overall. So instead of glossing over what he's been doing, whatever, if you guys were to redraft the first round right now, where would you take Jose Ramirez? Let's do rest of season.
For the second half here.
Yeah.
Where would I take him? I mean, he's a back half of the first round guy, right?
You'd still take him at the end?
I think so. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
You know what it is, man? Like you mentioned the team context. And this is probably stupid because it hasn't mattered with Ramirez. I've had this concern for 2 years. And it doesn't matter. Like he just puts up numbers. And the position, I think what you mentioned, Dave, is really important too. Like giving you 5 category production at third base. That I feel like gives you such an advantage. I'm just filibustering here. I'm thinking of my answer. Yeah, I mean, probably like 7 overall, 6 to 7.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, he's top 5 for me.
Top 5. Okay.
Well, I mean, if you think about who the top 5 were kind of going into it, I mean, Gunner's been kind of a disappointment. Witt's a little bit of a disappointment, as weird as that is to say. Judge is Judge, Tucker.
I mean, Ohtani, since he started pitching, is a 200 hitter.
Don't even start with the Ohtani. He's gonna be fine because you know what? We've poked holes in Ohtani for 2 years now, right? All this. Oh, he's coming off this injury, whatever. He's superhuman. All right, accept that. It does not matter. All right. So if you were drafting today, you're taking Ohtani 101. All right. If you don't, you're crazy.
I wouldn't have taken him in the offseason, though. I was one of the ones that pushed him down. But you know me, I'm paranoid.
You're freaking paranoid. Anyway, all right. So let's go through. You have Ohtani, Witt. You're taking, let's see, Ellie, Judge, Acuna. Like that's 5 right there. And then I think you look at Ramirez.
Yeah, but I don't think I would take Ellie or Acuna over Jose Ramirez based on position, just based on position scarcity. I don't know that I would.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
But that's probably why I lose. But
yeah, I wouldn't. I think just the upside with those other, like Ramirez's upside is capped by that lineup, and I just think when you're talking to the other 2 guys with Acuna and Ellie, they're just monsters, man. Like they could give you the number 1 overall season. I don't think that's in the bag for Ramirez, but.
Good point. It's a good point.
We're splitting 40-40, and we've got plenty of time to have this discussion. But it's an interesting one for sure. Real quick, who is the third baseman who's ahead of Jose Ramirez on the player rater?
Great question.
It's like by one cent according to the dollar value here. So they're neck and neck.
Machado?
Nope.
That's a good guess. I don't know.
Eugenio Suarez. Oof. That's I get why you said Ramirez, but I mean, if we're looking at like the all-star, the third base position for fantasy specifically, I mean, Suarez was going past pick 150.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't have any shares, which is in hindsight. I mean, we could always, hindsight is 2020, blah blah blah. But man, I mean,
dude's got 29 home runs.
Yeah, and it's just he's just continuing what he did in the second half last year. Actually, before even the second half of last year, there was a point where like it just clicked for him, and he just has not stopped.
I think he's third in home runs over the last full season or something like that. I saw a tweet today. It's Ohtani, Judge, and him.
Just wild, because I can remember last year when people were like, "Oh, they're gonna DFA Suarez so they could play Jordan Lawler," and the dude is just like a switch flip for him, and he's been just an absolute monster.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna move to the outfield now, and we got to start with PCA, right? I mean, we're recording this on Thursday, another 2 home runs today. He's now at 25 home runs, 27 stolen bases with a 271 average. He is the number 4 player overall in Roto formats. I mean, the dude's just a maniac. What do you say about him? nothing you could do. Like, if you have PCA, you're not trading him, right? So if you had the foresight to draft him, congratulations.
Thank
and
you.
No, I know you were on him, and I know I pinned you for that pick. Was it in Glarf or TGFBI? One of them.
It was in Glarf. It's my
Yeah.
outfield is the only thing keeping me alive. Him and Riley Green.
No, that's a nice combo. But yeah, overall, I was looking rest of season at his projections. If you look at the Bad X and plug it into like a spreadsheet or auction calculator, he'd come out as the 20th overall player rest of season. This was a big miss for me, man. I got caught up with PCA looking too much into the plate discipline, and we know like the O swing percentage has always been a thing with him, right? Like he swings outside of the zone almost as much as anybody, at around 41%.
Yeah.
And I still have this bias, and it's silly. I got to get over it because I don't think it's really like that predictive of anything. I have this bias of guys with really poor plate discipline. We have to, I guess, accept that some players just they can make it work, right? With their just pure athleticism. And the biggest thing with PCA, though, that I don't know if like anybody really could have forecast, like he would have made this change. This year, he is 14th in pulled air rate. That's been the biggest thing because he's not a huge like power guy, right? Like raw power, right?
No.
But this year, he's just made a complete approach change. 28.1% pulled air rate, which is, I mean, we didn't have this stat before, right? So it's nice that we could look at this. You could find that on StatCast, and that's a huge jump from last year when it was only at 19.3%. So like among hitters last year, he was like 100th in terms of pulled air rate. Now he's 14th overall. So, you know, again, it's hard to really, you can't predict that all of a sudden he was going to make that change. But even still, looking at his preseason projection, you know, you guys know I like to use the software that kind of ranks players based on their projection. And so I took a look at that from preseason, and it had him, if you did like a composite projection of all the big ones like Steamer, Bad X, he was the 90th overall rated player based on his projection. ADP, though, was around 130. So when you're looking at that big of a gap, that's a lesson for me, right? Because I just got too honed in on like my own analysis and didn't really zoom out and see, okay, well, like even if he just plays to his median projection, he's still coming out as a value. And the dude is young, right? And if he takes a step forward, if he makes an approach change, which he did, then this could be a league-winning pick, which he's become. So that's definitely a lesson for me.
I just think to piggyback off what you're saying, that when I was looking at it, I thought, well, here's a guy that I'm taking as my fourth outfielder. I hope he hits 250. I think he can hit 15 home runs. I think he could actually steal 40 bases. So the power surge has been something that I don't know that anybody was really expecting. Right. But I don't think that you're totally wrong, though, in pointing out that, you know, the swing and miss stuff and the chase is really a scary thing if they start to pitch him differently. He only hit 240 last month, and he was really struggling towards the end of the month. A lot of strikeouts, and it seemed like people were starting to get the better of him. I think what he is, though, is like what you're saying. You know, once a week, he seems to be good for a stat-filling game, and then he's got some 0 for 4s, 0 for 3s. And not that I care because, you know, look what we're getting, but there is some concern there, I think. If you watch the games and you see him play, I figured he would play because of the speed and because of the glove. And I figured that was the way that he would always have an opportunity. But I never expected the season that he's putting up right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I ended up like in that range. I always went Dylan Cruz over PCA. And that was silly because it's like just from a diversification perspective, like you probably shouldn't just go all in, especially on a guy who really hadn't shown anything yet. I think Cruz would have been fine if he didn't get injured, but that just hasn't worked out. But all right, let's move on to our next outfielder here. And another guy who projections, if you looked at it preseason, was telling you this guy was a value based on where he was going. It was going around pick 240, and I'm talking about George Springer, who has just had an an incredible resurgence, especially lately. I had no idea. Like, I started like preparing for this podcast. I have George Springer, another guy I have nowhere. So I didn't really like, I knew he was doing good, but I know he killed the Yankees last week. But yeah, I mean, this surge that he's had has him up to the outfielder 13 overall on the Razzball player rater, which was just like shocking to me. The raw numbers that we have: 16 home runs, 10 stolen bases, a 280 average, a nice balance profile of 52 runs, 53 RBIs. I mean, legit 5 category production from a guy going around pick 250. I don't know, like with all of these, I like to sit back and like, okay, what did I miss here? And the projection thing is probably the, like if they're telling me he was a value, probably should have gotten a share or two. But another thing that like we couldn't foresee, this is a guy who, how old is he? He's like 34, 35.
35.
He out of nowhere increased his bat speed, which like who would think at that age, like you would just naturally expect that to decline. He's gone from 71.9 to 73.1. I mean, that's not like a massive difference, but like I think significant enough. So yeah, just a total miss for me. Do you guys have any Springer? Like, were you off him as well?
Yeah, he was in a void for me. Absolutely.
Yeah, I avoided him too. I thought that after last year, it was just father time coming to get him. But really, it's been unbelievable, the transformation that he's made. He went from last year to just looking so slow, but he's been healthy too. So that was the really tricky part for me, was trying to figure out, maybe he was injured, but no, he was relatively healthy, and he's been healthy this year. The only difference I see is that, again, with the BABIP, I mean, he had a 245 last year, but throughout his career, it's been like 308 this year, 291 BABIP in 2023, 285, 2022. Like, we're seeing him this year. It was more unlucky, I guess, last year. So, yeah, it's a good call on this being an all-star, because he's been such a great value so far.
Yeah. Mike, let's try to get Mike Wilner on for the Blue Jays.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I haven't contacted him in a while. That would be a great idea.
He's usually been pretty receptive to coming on, and I mean he has his own podcast where he interviews like all the players on the team. So I'd love to get his perspective to see like if there's anything, any insight into what Springer's doing differently. So we'll get on that and see if we can get you a little bit more information there. Last outfielder to finish out with is Byron Buxton. And I feel like this was a slam dunk. This was a player Buxton was at around pick 215 this year. I think people had just kind of given up, right? That it's never going to happen. He's never going to stay healthy. He's broken. There was even some positive buzz around him in the offseason. And it's like, all right, we've heard this before. Like, it just never, like, didn't the dude like go miss time because he like was like broke his tooth or something like crazy? It's always something crazy with him.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What? Yeah, it was a steak or something, right? I'm not making that up.
Nope. That's what he did.
Literally, like you got hurt eating. So how are you going to play a full major league season? But the thing with him, man, so just to give you context, he's the 15th overall player on the player rater this season. Insane. He's got 20 home runs, 17 stolen bases, and a 270 batting average. Now, here's the thing. This, like with PCA, we couldn't foresee him all of a sudden becoming like a power monster. I didn't expect. Buxton obviously had the stolen bases earlier in his career, but if you looked at recent years, it looked like things were just kind of falling off in that category. Like he was kind of like a 5 to 10 stolen base guy who, if everything clicked and he stayed healthy, could be like a 30 home run bat. But the 17 stolen bases in just the first half, I mean, that's just insane. And he's just providing unbelievable value. So here's the thing with him, man. Like, again, kind of going through this exercise of like, what did we miss if we did? I have one share of him that I'm thoroughly enjoying. But like, what could we take away from this? And just thinking about the ADP that he was at, like everybody knows how skilled, how naturally talented Byron Buxton is, right? It was never an issue of that, but everybody was scared off. Dave, I can almost guarantee I'll put any amount of money on it right now. You have no Byron Buxton.
Nowhere, not even close.
Yeah. Okay. Good thing, because I have no money to give you.
That's easy
Attaboy,
money.
Dave.
Yeah.
Easy money.
Yeah. So, but a guy like that, and I pulled up the 8 guys that he was going around in ADP to make this point. Like, he was going next to Lourdes Gurriel, going next to Willie Castro. It's close to a little later, Alec Burleson, just looking at outfielders going in his range. Now, in a 15-teamer, it's one thing, right? Like, if you're in a 15-team draft champions where, you're holding that player the whole year, okay, Byron Buxton, like, you could potentially be taking at 0, probably not worth the risk. But for the majority of fantasy players, if you're in like a 12-team league with, waiver wire, all of that, there is no excuse to take a guy like a Lourdes Gurriel or a Willie Castro over Byron Buxton. And I love Willie, so no slight to my boy, but still, like Byron Buxton, we knew there was that league winning upside. So in a 12-team league, you don't take the safe guy at past pick 200, right? So I think that's the lesson to learn from this. Just like, go for the upside later on. These other guys, like, they're just probably, past pick 200, there's a good chance you're not even going to have them on your roster at the halfway point of the year, so use that on someone who has the skills that, if it clicks, it's going to be a major boon for you. All right, take us to the mound, Mike. Finish us off. I gave you starting pitcher and relief pitcher. So who do you got?
My starting pitcher this year is somebody that, I don't know if you can say enough about what he's done for the Phillies, and that's Cristopher Sanchez. If you've not watched him pitch, you really need to give yourself an opportunity to watch this guy throw, because he doesn't do it with, high line velocity. What he really does is he throws a sinker about half the time, but his changeup is one of the most incredible pitches in baseball right now. If you've not seen him, go ahead and do yourself a favor and do that, because that changeup is one of the most ridiculous pitches I've seen in recent memory. He's got 7 wins right now. He's got 2 losses, 2.59 ERA, 1.13 WHIP, 116 strikeouts, and 107 innings. Last year, he threw 181 innings, and by comparison, only had 153 strikeouts. So he seems primed to surpass that as long as he stays healthy. He's got a 58.6% ground ball percentage, guys. So he's using the sinker to get the ground balls, and then his changeup. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but I'm going to tell you, his whiff percentage on the changeup this year is 46%. I mean, guy is just an absolute monster. He doesn't walk anybody. He's striking out a ton of guys. His last 3 starts, he's had 11 strikeouts, 5 strikeouts, and then 8 strikeouts, and no walks. He has 1 walk in the month of July. He had 6 in the month of June, 4 of those in 1 game. So this guy has just become a monster on the mound for the Phillies. In fact, him and Wheeler together, if they get into the playoffs, good luck. You're going to have a really hard time beating either one of those guys. His ADP was 160. So there were some people that were kind of in on him, and 160 is not an absurd ADP there, but that changeup has become just unhittable this year. And looks like a guy that he can continue that success just based on how he mixes in the sinker, which some people would call a 4-seamer, but it's more of a sinker. And then he's also throwing that slider. He's really got it going on right now. Definitely somebody that I think is a first-half all-star. The Phillies would not be where they are without him.
Absolutely. Yeah, he was someone I jumped. Like late March, he became like a major helium guy. And I think I probably got him at like pick 110. Like people, because the big thing with him was he had that increased velocity. And he's carried that over. Let me ask you, Dave, because you text us like every week. You have, I don't know if you still have him. Do you have Cristopher Sanchez? Or did you finally get rid of him?
No. I still have him.
All right. So listen to me. Did you hear what Mike said about how good he is? Get that injury thing out of your head. That I know he had the minor whatever. He missed like a start because of an injury earlier in the year. Just enjoy him, right? Don't trade him, because every week you're asking us who to trade him for. Just keep him. It's okay.
Okay, so Thursday, July 10th, 8:22. I'm making the call to keep him. However, can I quote you on this if and
When he
when
goes on the
something
injured
happens?
list.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right, perfect.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, he's been a stud, man. Like, there's no reason. All these guys are ticking time bombs. That's you know what? I don't even want to go down that road, because we'll have a whole nother discussion, but that's for another day. Finish this out, Mike, with the relief pitcher all-star that you chose.
This one pains me because as a human being, I don't like this human being, but he is an outstanding pitcher and is probably about to get traded. And that's Aroldis Chapman for the Red Sox. I mean, what a signing for the Red Sox, if you think about it. He's got 3 wins. He's got 15 saves, a 1.25 ERA, a 0.78 whip, and the knock against Chapman for years has been that, you're not going to get those great ratios. He's got 53 strikeouts and 36 innings pitched. His ADP was 281. Many people had made the mistake ahead of time of putting Liam Hendricks ahead of him in the bullpen pecking order there in Boston. I think it was pretty clear from the get-go in spring training that Hendricks was not going to be ready, nor did he have the velocity to be able to close games. Chapman still has got the incredible velocity. He's averaging 99.2 on his fastball, still 98th percentile in all of baseball. And it's not like he's 25. I mean, the guy is 37. He is still jacked. He's going to get traded. I think the Red Sox will move him. I will say this: if the Red Sox do move him, a guy that you might want to be thinking about adding, if you haven't already, is Jordan Hicks. I think that they're going to take a long look at him closing as well. They should. He's proven that he really can't be in the rotation. But going back to Chapman, I think he's been a remarkable story for them. I also had Carlos Estevez as kind of a 1B here, just because of how good he's been this year, and really was an afterthought. A lot of people thought it would be Urseg in that bullpen. Ursig has been great in the 8th inning role, but Estevez has just been racking up the saves in Kansas City. But I decided for the purposes of this exercise to go with Aroldis Chapman.
All right. Good stuff. All right. We are going to leave it there for our Fantasy All-Stars. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with our Mental Health Minute. All right. We are back. So for this week's Mental Health Minute, we're going to be talking about diet and the gut-brain connection.
Oh boy.
Strike
one for me.
Yeah. Why?
I don't. This, we a few weeks ago when we talked about, we always talk about the mental health stuff, and Dave had talked about how he needed to do more work on learning about breathing and stuff of that nature. I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. Gut health is something that I don't really pay much attention to, and it's really something that I do need to start paying attention to. I really have not done a very good job of looking at it, that mind and body kind of connection and that stuff. So I know that there's things that I should be doing differently. The problem is that I am a bit of a, what's the right way to say it? I'm sort of like a Taco Bell steak and shake junkie. And I'll eat that stuff and I will not think about what it's going to do to me. Now, Chris, being my roommate in Arizona, you will know I spared you a lot of the gut issues that I normally have by eating a little bit more properly. And then when I had to use the bathroom, I did evacuate and go down to the lobby, in which case the people who were standing at the front desk knew exactly what I was doing when I had the sports page folded under my arm. There was not a lot of trickery in that regard, but it's definitely something that I need to study up the connection on, because I will, at lunchtime at school, I have a tendency to grab something very quickly and not really think about what I'm eating and put it into my body. And then I'll get home and sometimes I'll really not feel well or be really nauseous, maybe not eat a really good dinner because I just had like 6 White Castles or something for lunch, like it's a habit that I got to get out of.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. I mean, there's been a lot of research that's gone on, especially in the past few years, that is increasing our understanding of how what we eat impacts, our brain health, right? And I don't want to make this like a science segment, right? But there's just generally the bacteria in our gut there's a lot of serotonin produced in our gut, and serotonin is one of those chemicals, one of those neurotransmitters that is associated with well-being, right? And a lack of it can cause depression and anxiety. And so just understanding that, like, there is that connection, the literal connection to your gut, and how you're feeling overall. So just looking at a few studies here, there was a 2023 study, lower gut microbiome diversity was significantly associated with more severe depressive symptoms in adults. So meaning that, like, if you just are eating the same crap every day, that is going to have an impact on your mental health. There was a study in 2024 that people who tested a Mediterranean diet intervention, they were people with moderate depression. And after doing this intervention, they showed reduced depressive symptoms, talked about the importance of getting fiber, and that helped, like, shift the microbiome and reduce inflammation. So yeah, just kind of having a basic awareness. Like, you could do your own research, ask ChatGPT, like, it could give you all the information. But I wanted to take this moment to just remind people out there, like, if you're not feeling great mentally, I think that's really, like, the first place that you should be looking. It's like, what are you putting into your body? Are there some adjustments that you can make there? And I think you'd be amazed at how much, if you are consistent with putting good things into your body, how that's going to improve your overall mood. I see, like, people go on medications, antidepressants, and those have a place, right? Those can be really effective, but that can really just be a band-aid if you're not making other changes in your life, right? If you are depressed or really anxious and you're on a medication, like, it doesn't make sense to just continue to eat whatever 6 White Castles. I'll just use the example you brought up,
No,
Mike.
that's
Like,
true. It's absolutely right.
like, you're just negating those effects. So it's really got to be kind of like a joint effort, with if you're going to take medication, if you don't, just, like, understanding how what you're putting into your body is affecting you. And I think in general, people overlook the connection between our mental and our physical health. I see that I'm in the medical field and working as a nurse. Like, I just see, like, people on the more medical side of things, general doctors, or other specialists within, like, physical health. Like, they're just, like, they don't even want to look at mental health. They don't want to talk about mental health. It's like this very, like, taboo thing, right? And it's like, well, wait a second, like, the two are connected. Like, you can't separate someone's mental health and physical health. They're one and the same. So I think that's just still something that our we're kind of missing in the medical field, like, understanding how to join the two. I just want to check in with you, Dave. Any thoughts, any challenges that you face in this area, or anything that you're doing right, or something that you've tried in terms of your diet that you felt has been helpful in terms of your mental health?
For me, I'll admit, I think I eat pretty healthy. I try and keep a balanced diet, and I try and avoid some of the snacks that years ago I just couldn't. And I just put an end to it. Like, I could eat a bag of cookies like it was nothing. Like, it was just right in there. But then one day I just decided I'm just gonna stop. And the hard part for me, especially with the sugar, because I do have a sweet tooth, the hard part at the beginning was just it's an addiction. Sugar is an addiction.
For sure.
And that first 2 weeks of not having those cookies and not having a pop was so hard. But I found after I got through that, I started to adjust. And just like anything else in life, after you get over that first hump, it's that you start adapting, your body gets used to it. And it's actually, for me now, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier than it used to be to eat healthy, because there are some pretty tasty, healthier alternatives that are out there, and some nice, decent recipes and stuff like that you can do. It's expensive to
That
try
it
and
is.
like a lot of these things. It's so
But can I pause you right there? Because I kind of want to dispel this idea, though, that I think is out there.
okay.
I know what you're saying, but I think people, when they are used to eating kind of crap food, fast food or just like processed crap, they rationalize it by saying, well, everything that, like, if I were to buy other food that's quote unquote healthier, it's just so expensive.
Hmm.
And maybe that was true like 10, 15 years ago, but have you been to like McDonald's recently or
It's
any of these
it's
fast food
crazy.
places?
It's
Yeah.
absolutely crazy.
Crazy, dude. Like, to get a full, like, one of the combo meals, like, I'm in New York, so it's even more expensive, but it's just like it's like $12, $13. Like,
Mhm.
think about, and honestly, like, it doesn't even, I don't know, my taste buds have changed as I gotten older, I guess. Like, it just doesn't even taste that good anymore. I'm like, why am I
Mhm.
paying this much money for a meal that is making me feel like crap, doesn't even
Yeah.
taste great, and is
No.
expensive?
Yeah,
You
it's
know, so I
disgusting
just,
and bloating. Yes, for sure.
right. I just want to bring that up because I think that is sometimes a misconception. Like, if you went and actually like got fresh produce and really were thoughtful about preparing your meals, it would be cheaper than the other processed crap that
Mhm.
you think is more convenient or think is cheaper. Yeah, so
No,
I just
I
want
was
to put that
talking
out.
more about groceries though in general. I find if I'm trying to eat a little healthier in groceries wise, the fast food for sure, it's gone up in restaurants everywhere. But I find like groceries, I can get a bag of chips for $1, but if I want, a healthier brand of crackers or something like that, it's pretty expensive to get like the almond flour, healthier style of food like that. So
Mhm.
I do find it's still pretty expensive, but I do agree with you. Like fast food and restaurants everywhere, it's
Yeah.
gone up, man.
Well, everything's expensive. You can go. It's $9 for a box of cereal now. For God's sake, I mean,
Yeah, no, it's insane, but that's for another day. We'll talk about me. We'll do money management as a topic one day, because that's important for overall mental health, right?
Yeah.
yeah. And I got a $30,000 price tag coming from the University of Illinois here any day
All
now.
right, so
So
you
yeah.
need that segment, Mike, for sure. All right, well, we're gonna leave it there. Thank you so much for listening. If you do like the show, would very much appreciate if you can leave a review for the show wherever you get your podcasts. That would definitely help us out. Next week we will be back with another episode. Do we have anybody lined up, Mike, or we
No, I
working on
think
it?
I think we're gonna kind of go with just the three of us for next week. We had Scott on
Gotcha.
this week, and then following weeks I've got a couple of people lined up. Working on that. That's always a work in progress for us.
Yeah. Well, appreciate all the work that you put into that. It ain't easy. People. I don't know if people know the amount of work that we have to put in to get people on the podcast. We'd love to have a beat writer every week, right?
Mhm.
But it's just not feasible, especially during the season. There's all kinds of challenges with schedules and stuff. So you've been doing a bang up job with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
But we're gonna leave it there. For Dave Funnell, for Mike Carter, I'm Chris Torres. Thank you for listening to Fantasy Baseball Beat.